If everything is made with love, it's beautiful.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we're starting to see come back.
That you do in life, it's really important that you protect your energy, like you protect your energy, you protect your space, you protect your own well-being. And I always say, like, if your request is reasonable enough and they say no, move on and find a different place. Like, we're not back 200 years ago where we had two options. We have a lot of options. I I probably have more options available to me just because of where I live compared to you, right? Statewide, you probably have more options, but locality that I can get to, I probably have hundreds more options than you do, you know. But we have options. We don't just have one butcher and one pharmacist and one family doctor,
Right.
So yeah.
That's the beauty of things. So it's amazing how big communities can grow so fast. But then you look around and you're like, there's such a lack of community in this. But then look at it, you know what I mean? It's just finding your own.
And as a world, the less connected we've gotten as a people.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh, Colleen. Like, this morning, so I don't know how it works, like, how it worked when you dropped off the kids at school or if you took them to school or they rode the bus. But Waylon is very persnickety, and I think I've told you this. He doesn't like to wait in the big crowded line, especially if it goes below a certain temperature, they put them inside and they line them up that way. He is like, no way, Mom. Absolutely not. And I respect that because, again, we know my bubble. I have that, So I pull up to the car line and I give parents plenty of room. I'm not the asshole that pulls up right where people can drop their kids off and then I wait 40 minutes. I'm not that person. But this morning, one of his classmates, got out. She waved. I waved at the mom. She couldn't even see because it was. And I'm like, man, like you are telling your child, or at least like I'm hoping that her classroom is her community right now. That's where she's learning. That's where she's growing. That's where she's spending her time, plus at home. And then like I see that and you can't even like, how do you build community with people who are so disconnected? And you see these types of examples like I just gave, I'm like, what the hell? Like, how do we get that back? I guess is my question. Like how do we unplug enough to look at the communities that we do have and either build them stronger or collapse and rebuild them,
Yeah. I think it's personal choice. Like I'm quite content with my community being a one-person member, like I like to have neighbors, but I don't like to have anybody like intimately in there like that. I don't
either.
I don't wish to make small talk. I don't wish to, so when my kids were younger, I did have to drive them to school, or walk them to school, like, when the weather was warmer. I had no interest in talking to other parents. My face wasn't in my phone, but no, I had no interest, but that's just my personality. It's not because I think people are bad or, whatever, like, and I'm not antisocial. I just do not like small talk. I don't like fake people. I don't like small talk. And most people are people that I don't want to have conversations with. So for me, I'm very much like in my own world. I just want to drop my kids off. I want them to go into school. I want to get in my car and I want to leave. I don't want to wave to people. I don't want to be friendly. I just don't. Like, I just don't. And yeah, I just don't.
No, I understand that. I get that. And I mean, hey, like, I'm like that some days, especially when I'm just like, you know, especially when I'm up here. Like, I've noticed that a lot. Well, you've pointed that out to me too. You know, what did you say to me? What, last year? You put yourself on an island. You know, I kind of wanted to be there. You know,
It's funny though, because when it's strangers that I know I don't have any chance of them wanting to get closer to me, I'm friendly and outgoing. Like yesterday morning, I took myself up. Yesterday was my complete day off. So I started with going to my favorite restaurant for breakfast. And I only get to go there when I'm where I am right now, which isn't very often, maybe once a year. Um, so I took myself out to breakfast. I get to the restaurant and it's a small house converted into a restaurant. So it's really cool. Um, I got there at the perfect time. There wasn't hardly anybody there. So I get in, there was a guy that was like an older guy, probably like 70s maybe, walked in right before me and he ended up sitting. He was a table for one, just like me. So he ended up sitting the table that was like the furthest down, like this little nook that you can eat in. So I sat in the table in front of him, and I don't remember what I said to him, but I said something to him, and he's like, "Oh," he said something about which led me to believe that he doesn't live around here, and I'm like, "Oh," I said, "Oh, it's really cold up here." I said, "I wasn't prepared for how cold it is. It's not usually cold this time of year." That's what I said, and he said, "Well, I'm from Florida," and I was like, "Oh." Like, you must be freezing if you're from Florida. And so him and I got to talking and I'm like, "Oh, do you live in Florida?" "Well, so then he starts telling me like a little bit of his story. And then I was like, "All right, like enjoy your breakfast and enjoy your time up here, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Yeah, I can't wait to head down to Virginia." So when it's that type of situation, I don't have a problem talking to people, but when it's people that I know I'm going to see regularly, that I know based on observations of their behaviors, observations of the types of conversation that they have, that I have no interest in inviting them into my sacred space
mm-hmm.
that I have, I will I'll duck and run, right? Like, and honestly, for the most part, I don't even notice them. Like if I was to see someone, if I was in the food store, I wouldn't even notice someone in the food store. I'm not people oriented like that because I've had people, I've heard my name and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. Someone else has the same name as me," right? Not even connecting that person is trying to get my attention, right? That's how oblivious I legitimately am. And but if I do by any chance see somebody in the food store that I know, I'm ducking and running as fast as I can because I have no interest in talking to you about what's in your shopping cart, right? Like I don't want to catch up with you. I don't want to ask how the kids are. Like that's just how my brain works because you're not someone that's in my inner bubble. So my brain is like, you don't give a shit. Don't ask them, right? Like that's what my introvert brain tells me. Don't be fake. Don't ask them because you don't care, right?
So I love all of that. And I know that I didn't mean to make you giggle even more, but like I literally had an aha moment in my head while you were sitting there because yes, Colleen, yes, I completely agree with you. And like, I think it depends on the atmosphere, like you said, because I'm the same way. There's some parents at the school, and you know what? They're probably going to watch this podcast because it's getting out there. There's some parents at the school that I'm like, I don't want to. Like, I will purposely be like, Waylon, we're going to wait just a minute longer because I just don't. I don't want to. But then again, like, I've done the same thing. And that's why I started to like really smile and like almost burst. Just because I've done that, and I'm going to take that as my own little growth moment, because I remember before being so paranoid to go in a grocery store because I didn't want to see certain people, right? I'd be like head on a swivel, like CIA agent, you know what I mean? And then now, like that just happened to us like a month ago. I literally heard my name. I didn't know. I didn't hear my name. My husband heard my name, and he's like, "Honey, somebody's," and I'm like, "Huh?" Like I'm in my own little world, and then out of nowhere, the person that was trying to get my attention cuts me off, and I'm just like, "What are you doing here?" You know, you know what I mean? And I didn't even mean it in a bad way, but I was like, "Man, I'm in the zone. You got to stop. Like I don't care, and I gotta go." You know what I mean? And I used to never be that way, so like that's why I started to be like, "Oh my God, like this is my own little growth moment, Colleen," because I remember like having this conversation with you years ago of like, why the fuck do I care so much? Like, I don't give a shit. You know, I don't care what you're having for dinner. I don't care that you're upset about XYZ, you know, and I don't mean that in a hurtful way, but there's nothing I can do about it. You know, like, yeah, I can show empathy, and I definitely have. I have empathy. I have apathy. I have both, you know, but like at the same time, like I really had to ask myself those questions, like, do I give a fuck or do I not give a fuck? You know what I mean? So that's why I was like sitting there beaming. And for those of you that can't see that, because I still haven't figured out how to show both of us at the same time, I was literally like, because I'm like, oh shit, like maybe this is a new level for me. And it absolutely is, because I don't, you know, like I've actually like aligned those fucks of when to give them and when not to give them. You know what I mean? But I I 100% agree with you about like there's certain strangers that yeah, like they'll kick up a conversation, you know, and I'll definitely carry along. Like I remember, um, but I think like I said, there's different atmospheres that allow that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that has never once happened. Well, no, that has happened to me twice at a grocery store, but it's always been those little other places that normally people don't like. You go there for certain reasons, right? Like there's a store in my hometown. It's a metaphysical store. I used to go there for incense. But I met some of the coolest fucking people that were there for, you know, crystals. They were there for ironically incense or sage or like I ran into the Catholic priest who was getting I don't know what it's called, but it's something that they use at the altar. And forgive me, that's my own lack of ignorance. But you know, and like he just struck up a conversation, you know, like talk about a cool ass down to earth human. You know, it kind of gave me a different perspective
Yeah.
of like those type of individuals, you know, and I don't mean that in any negative regard. You know, it's just you think of like a priest or a preacher that, you know, you think of them like, hey, they have to have some sort of professionality, but he was just cool as could be. You know, he had jeans on underneath his, I don't know what that thing's called, a robe. Is it called a robe? I don't know.
I
But
don't know what it's called either.
forgive me, guys. I don't know.
It's not a habit because I'm not a nun.
Exactly. You know, but like, just some of the coolest conversations can come from those type of strangers like you. Like, how cool is that to see somebody else that's traveling even further from home than you were, you know, and still on his way throughout a route, you know, like that's cool as hell, you know?
Yeah.
What is
And I was
17
actually tempted to ask him if he wanted company for breakfast.
right? Like, hey, you know, heck
Yeah.
yeah. That would be so
But
cool.
I didn't want company for breakfast, so I didn't ask him.
I get that. I get that. Sorry. This freaking thing, sorry, the school can wait. Nobody's calling me, so it's okay. Um, but no, I definitely think atmosphere definitely plays a role in that, not to mention other people's energy, you know?
Yeah. 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 It's so funny because, you know, like what I had, the message I had recently sent you about being so forgettable. Like that's been my whole life that I have been forgettable. And I mean, I've sat down with people multiple times, like, and had conversations with them. And like 2, 3 months will go by and they're like, oh yeah, hi, I'm so and so. And I'm like, yeah, we've met before. Like, we've conversed, and they will have literally no recollection of ever meeting me. So it's like, it's an interesting dynamic because I don't want to be seen for the most part, not in, I don't like the attention, because I don't, that's not it. Like, I could stand in front of a crowd and talk if you wanted me to. Like, give me a topic and I'll talk, right? Like, I'm not like, oh, I can't be the center of attention. That doesn't bother me. I'll go up on the dance floor and dance when no one's out there. Like, that stuff doesn't bother me, right?
Mhm.
Um,
There's
so
a
it's
video of you.
it's a weird, like, it's a weird dynamic. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to be seen, but I want to be seen. Like, I want to be seen when it's deep and meaningful, but I don't want to be seen when it's surface and, like, not necessarily fake, but not deep, right? When it's surface, like, I'm not a surface dweller. So it is this, and if you're not an introvert, you would never understand, like, the constant push and pull of, like, my extrovert tendencies want those big family parties and want those big things, but then my introvert is like, no, 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 we don't. No, remember, no, we don't. And I'm driving the bus. You're extrovert, she sits in the back. I'm driving the bus. No, we don't want that, right? So it is this constant, like, tug of war with that. So it's a weird internal dynamic that, you know, obviously, um, I'm greatly aware of. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting, like, if you're not an introvert, you have no way of understanding what it's like to be an introvert.
I feel that. I feel pieces of that. Like, sometimes I want to get coffee, but in my head, I'm like, no, we don't. We don't want to put that, like, and I'm just going to talk freely. Um, like, a lot of times it's that loop. Like, I don't want to have to put a smile on, or I don't want to have to, like, act like I'm interested in something. You know what I mean? When really, like, in my brain, I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm already, like, layers down in there thinking about things, and I want to make this very clear, because a lot of people will think, oh, well, she's just spiraling in her own head and avoiding the whatever. No, it's, I don't want to talk about how we get around Chromebooks, or why these kids have X amount of minutes that they have to do online per week, is one of the topics that would come up, right? I don't want to talk about that. Instead, I want to talk about, well, you know what? Why don't we look at the change in the school system? Let's go to the fucking root instead of the problem at hand. See what I'm saying? So I
Yes.
feel that, like, I totally understand that. Um, and that is a battle. It's an exhausting battle, because you're like, shit, I want to, but I don't want to. I don't want to, but I do want to, and then you're like, do I or not do I? Like, how am I going to feel after? Am I going to be fucking drained or not? Like, you see, I feel that, Colleen, and I feel like a lot of people are battling this right now. And for a long time, I was asking myself the question of, well, am I just around the wrong people? Right? Because I think that there is a lot of me. I am a bubbly person. I like to talk to people, right? We know this about myself. But at the same time, I don't like to talk to the same people I used to. I
Yes.
don't like to I don't like to talk about the same stuff that I used to, you know? And I think it takes a level of depth to get to where I want to talk about, just like you. Like, we talked about, what was it, last week or the week before? I can't remember. I'm still slicing and dicing. I'm sorry, Colleen. I know I'm not on a deadline with you, but I still feel bad because I'm not pushing them out like I was. Um,
That's your own agenda. Don't worry about that with me.
I know. Um, I'm applying pressure in real life, guys. There you go. Um, that doesn't need to be applied. I'm getting it done. I'm just adding pressure by forcing myself to get it done faster, I guess. Anyway, I think that it's just like what you said, like I said last week or the week before, we go to the root, but nobody wants to go to the root unless either they can see it or they're willing to actually do the work to get to the root. You know what I mean? So like, I have found so many times in conversation where I'll try to take the conversation deeper, same topic, just deeper, like the school thing,
Yeah.
instead of like forcing these children to look at their Chromebooks, like, well, how can we help, to give them more activity in school or whatever that looks like, I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but like every time I bring that down deeper, they're like, well, what? That's not mine, Well, you kind of got to weigh the pros and cons, don't you? But there's a level of depth there that maybe they're not willing to see or they can't see yet.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. And that's what replays in my head all the time, especially after those conversations when I do say, okay, no, we're going to try. And then I like end up kicking myself in the ass. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that like in a negative way, but it's like, well, shit, now I feel like they think I've got 5 heads. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you can relate to any of what I just said, Colleen, but
Yeah,
that's how it is
absolutely. And most people I find are in the extrovert world, and and this is not a bad thing, but most extroverts, they just want to have light fun, like their time, and this is a gross generalization, their time for deep conversations and the need for that is very minimal compared to myself as an introvert. Like I most of the time want the conversations to be deep. I want the surface level conversations to be minimal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard, 99% of my friends throughout all of the years have all been extroverts. So,
I get that.
It's interesting. And I'm always like, my first priority in life, and it always has been, is protecting my energy. Like don't try to put your expectations on me. Don't try to put your agenda on me. Don't try to put your feelings for something on me, because it's not going to work. I'm going to go running 75 miles an hour in the opposite direction. And I've got such a polar opposite internal working mechanism that I'm so chill and so easygoing, but fiercely stubborn at the same time. And if you tell me that I should do something, even if it's something I want to do, you can bet your year's salary I'm not going to do it just because you told me I should, right? Like that's my inner stubbornness that comes out, that runs very strong in my family, which cracks me up when family members point out that I'm stubborn. Takes one to know one,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I'm only stubborn when it comes to myself. Like and it's a weird dynamic, because I find that most of the time when people are like, oh, well, you should have reached out for help, or why didn't you ask for help, or na 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 na, I would have. All of that comes with such a price for the most part from people. It's like, oh yeah, you would have helped me if I did it your way. You would have helped me if, or had you helped me, it would have been like this. Like, I'd much rather take 6 months to do something than to have that emotional payback to somebody else.
Oh,
I would rather pay someone to do it than to have that emotional payback to somebody else. Because I don't want to because if you're someone that's close to the heart, then you should do it because you care about someone. You shouldn't do it because it's a business plan. Because a business plan, I have no need for a business plan. With people that I care about, no need for it. And so many times in my life, I have been, well, I would say that there's not one single time in my life that I could confidently say that I was somebody's sole priority. Maybe when I was a baby and I had to get fed and my diaper needed to be changed, but in my years of being able to remember, I can confidently say that I do not remember a single time when I was someone's only focus and 100% their priority. Even if it was only for like one day or whatever. That's pretty profound for me to be able to say that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, but I feel that. Like I feel the the stubbornness for yourself, right? And like that emotional cost, because that is 100% the conversation that you and I had last year about me being on the island. That's 100%. Like, I don't know how to ask for help, but I don't want conditioned help. I don't want a transactional help. I wanted help because I needed somebody to see me for me because I couldn't see me for nothing. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
And like, man, there are, I don't want to say countless because I let a lot of people in, but I learned a lot of fucking lessons. There's still people that I have on my own little islands. Some have longer bridges than others. Some are barricaded bridges, not for me, but for them, because they are very close to me. They hold special room in my heart. Colleen, you know that you're one of these people. And I never want to let my own backlash hit you guys. Like I don't want that. So like I've put up these walls, not for me, but for you, for other people, but like at the same time, like the other ones, I don't know, like you have to ask yourself these questions of like, if I go halfway across this bridge, is that person going to meet me halfway? And you have to be willing to be honest with yourself and say no and say, okay, because like you said, that emotional cost is, I've done a lot of reflecting, and this, that emotional cost is one of the biggest things that tanked my ass. I kept giving because I thought, okay, if I did it this way, that'll give me some sort of rank or some sort of like worth, or if I fit in this box, that gives me some sort of worth, or you know what I mean? Like there's so many different examples I can give in this, because again, like Colleen, this, I've done this across the board, every hat that I played, and I like, there's a part of me that gets so enraged when I think of this, because it's like, why did I feel like I had to perform? Why do I feel like I couldn't just be me? Right? Well, again, reflection, when you're told to be, that you can't be this way. Like I see some of these trends that run through, and one of them that sticks out for this is, well, I tried to be myself and then I ended up, and like insert whatever. Well, like I've run into that too, but then at the same time, it's like, well, you know what? No, because that is somebody else's expectation. Well, fuck that. right? I have my own expectation of who I am and of who I want to be, right? And really, I think the only people that matters to is those people that like are around you. And of course, they hold different limits. You know, like you expect something different from your children than you do me as your friend. I expect something different from my husband than I expect something from my son. See what I'm saying? And like, I
Yep.
know people say that you shouldn't expect things, but when you're in these roles with people, prime example, when you are married to someone, you expect them to stay loyal and faithful to you, right? When you are a parent, you expect your children to listen to you and respect you, right? There's see what I'm saying? Like that's an expectation. That's a universal expectation, right? But when you look at your own expectations for yourself and other people, 9 times out of 10, you realize those things are sky fucking high. And you're holding yourself barely tiptoeing on the floor, all while theirs is flat. How's that fair? It's not. It's time to lower your own expectations. You won't be hurt as much. You won't feel like you just, what's the word? You're just let down all the time, you know? And you know what? If you do, then you know what? This person's court or island or whatever the fuck you want to call it needs to either be fucking sunk, cut, or pushed clear back, you know? That changes priority. And that's okay, right? That's
Yep.
okay. Sorry, Colleen, I know I kind of went off on a tangent, but like I really felt that, you know, like I get that. Because that's one of the things, like, if I can be completely honest with you, and I think that you know this, that's one of the reasons I said yes to this podcast. Because I knew there was you're like, let's just talk, right? Like that was it. There was nothing, you know, and now you've given me like the rein to feel capable again. Because for those of you that don't know, that's the reason I started the sourdough bread. I wanted to feel capable with these own hands, this body of mine, you know? And now I'm capable of posting posting a fucking podcast on a YouTube channel every week. Since when? You know, since now. Like it's just amazing. It's amazing growth to see, right? But at the same time, it pains me because I see so many people walking around like that, you know? And I'm just like, man, no.
Thinking about like this time of year for people and what this time of year means, whether it's, you know, remembering with fondness
Mm-hmm.
a childhood that was beautiful and magical and, you know, all that stuff and filled with happiness and, you know, or was it filled with pain, disappointment, or anything in between, right? Like this time of year is really hard for a lot of people. So, you know, yesterday as I was out and about, I sat in a couple of different places and just listened to people's conversations and watched people's behaviors, which is like one of my favorite things to do. And I was just being, which is what I was doing yesterday. I was just, regardless of where I was just being present. And it always comes back to people feeling the obligation to dot 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 because of somebody else's expectation, right? Like the obligation to put on these big beautiful holiday dinners or these big beautiful holiday gatherings because it's what Nana or Babo or Yaya or whatever you called your grandmother, right? It's what they always did. I want to carry on like it's beautiful to carry on traditions because you want to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also beautiful to make your own, Like I was thinking about this yesterday when I was out driving around, like for many, many years. I'm hoping that like a moose will walk behind me or something. Um,
And
I don't think it will, but wishful thinking. For many, many years when we came up here with the kids, there's a place called the Christmas Loft, and we would go in the Christmas loft and we would always get an ornament, and we would get an ornament for that year, and we would obviously go home and put it on the Christmas tree because we spent many years spending Christmas Day up here. We would come up and we would stay for like the whole week, 4 days, 5 days, and we would wake up here Christmas Day. And, the kids would wake up to Santa would leave them a stocking. But at home was where Santa left all of their gifts, right? So thinking about that yesterday and thinking about being up here without either one of my kids, I'm not going to go into the Christmas loft as much as I want to and get an ornament for myself because I just bought a house. I don't like that was our tradition with the kids. Like I don't want to. I'm saying goodbye to that, or until next time when and if I'm up here with the two kids. You know what I mean? So, and I don't even know what I mean. Oh, you asked me about philosophical. Throughout the years of us doing different traditions for different holidays, and it wasn't just for like Christmas that we've done that. We've gone away for Thanksgiving. We've gone away, my ex-husband and I, for people who don't know who I'm talking about. We've gone away for Easter. Like the four of us, like it was the four of us. And how many people we would see doing the same exact thing. People from other countries that we would get to talking that clearly were from other countries. They were speaking different languages. But you could tell that they didn't live here. Like not just speaking French, but live here or Spanish or whatever. Like you could tell just from the brands of clothes, like they don't live here. And how many people we've talked to throughout the years of, oh yeah, we go away every year for Christmas, blah, 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 blah. So it's always interesting to hear what other people's traditions are and why they're traditions. So that was I would say that's protecting your own energy throughout the holidays and what that means for you as an individual and what that looks like. And asking yourself, like, why am I doing this? Like when my kids were growing up, they only got 3 gifts from Santa. And then Santa would fill them a small stocking. And the bulk of their gifts for many years was their trip from their father and I. They got a couple of small token gifts to open from us. But when we went on vacation, that was their Christmas gift. And they loved it. And to this day, they're not like, what do I want for Christmas? They're like, like they're just not commercialism people. And I think that directly relates to the fact that we were not commercialism parents. We didn't allow Santa to be commercialism. The 3 gifts they got from Santa might have been like a book, a deck of Uno cards, and like a puzzle, something else. Like the good gifts came from us. I wanted credit for that. I didn't want Santa to have credit for that. So, yeah. So protect your energy and ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing.
Ooh, can I piggyback on what you just said? Because I love it. Like, and I'm gonna. I love what you said for not commercializing Santa and taking credit for the big one. Those presents and the parents and even our non-parents watching this too, they'll understand that there's certain things that you yeah, Santa can take credit for it. But then there's other things that you're just like, man, they're so excited for that. They're so excited. Um, Colleen, I want to say that, like, I wish I knew all of that before I had Waylon. However, probably like 90% of the parents here watching this, like, we grow up when we have children. A lot of us wake up, not a lot of us, but some of us, some of us see different things. But at the same time, I was humbled, and I'm grateful as fuck for that, because now I do understand, like, this is not at all what it was. And I grew up, of course, very grateful for the things that I did have. However, I know the years that it shifted. I know where that became, it wasn't cool to believe in that. It was cool to do all of this, like, let's ramp it up a notch. And I was so influenced by certain people that, one, I was living with, but I was also influenced by the friends I had. But like this year, and I just had this conversation with our 6-year-old, because the question, dreaded question, Mommy, is Santa Claus real? And I, as a parent, I struggle to answer that question, because I don't want to lie to him, but at the same time, I don't want to cut the magic, because there is magic. And those traditions fuel that magic, So the simple conversation that I sat down with him, I said, you know what, Waylon? And for those of you that, Colleen had mentioned, like, she leans more toward Buddhism than anything else religion-wise. We don't have a certain, I believe in a lot of different things. My husband believes in a few different things, and we're trying to incorporate what we can with our son. So when I had this conversation with him, I said, when we say grace, because we do say grace before we eat, and he does say grace before he does talk to source, before he goes to bed. It's the cutest little thing, I said, do you feel that pull in your chest when you do that? And he says, yeah. And I said, do you feel the same pull when you think about Santa Claus? He says, yeah, Mom. And I said, then Santa Claus is real. Because I never want him to look at the figure. I want him to match that feeling, because the feelings don't lie. The sensations don't lie. That's your internal belief. That's your core, right? And I feel like it's very important to have those connection pieces with him. At the same time, along with that conversation, sorry guys, I had two thoughts going in at one time. Along with that conversation, I also said, do you remember how it feels to give to people? He says, yeah, I like to give more than I like to get. And I love that for him. I love that, because I think that's I know at 6 years old, you know what? I don't know at 6 years old. Six was a lot different for me than it was at him. At 10, 11, I couldn't say that. Okay. So having him say that at 6, like, I had that conversation with him. I said, it's not about the amount. Never about what it is. It's never about how many or how much. It's about the thought and the fact that people thought of you, because not everybody thinks about other people.
Yep.
And like having that conversation with him, like, really kind of like, it's one of those teaching moments, like, solidifies that, like, whole, like, growth piece within your own brain, and you're like, damn, why did I let myself do that? Like you said, why did I force myself going to all these traditions when really they just made me feel this big? They made me feel like shit, like, ask yourself those questions, like Colleen said, do I have to do this? Am I doing this for me? Am I doing this because I want to, or am I doing this because I have to? And who said so? Like, it opens up a lot. Not to mention, it saves you some stress, some uncomfortability, your energy, your peace, right? But it saves the people around you, the ones that do hold those spots in your heart, because those are the people that unfortunately feel that from you.
Yep.
You know, that's something that I've realized head over toe with a lot of different situations and people in my life. And when I look at my husband, my son, and myself, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth
Yep.
it. Like Colleen said, I still think you should go get an ornament. Maybe it's not at the Christmas loft, but maybe, or you be crafty and you make yourself one because you did buy yourself a home. And it's your first Christmas in your own home. No? That's up to you. You could make one. No paper snowflakes?
No.
They're messy. Don't do it. Waylon does that all the time. And I got paper shit all over the floor. But no, Colleen. I rambled a lot.
You didn't ramble. That's the point of this, Demi. It's a podcast. If all we did was sit here and stare at each other, people wouldn't want to watch it.
You're right.
Talking is part of this, and you're supposed to talk. I don't ever apologize for how much time I talk.
I know.
So stop doing that.
You want to know what that is?
Own your energy. Yeah, it's you not feeling worthy enough to be talking.
Damn it, Colleen. I was going to say that.
Can't get anything by me, Demi. I know you when I listen to you.
I know. Colleen is one, guys, that she's gonna, and I love Colleen. That's one of the reasons, honestly, like, I think that's why over the years, like, I've gotten so close to you, and why I'm still close to another person, and you know who that is, because you guys like see that and you're like, no, we're gonna call you out on your shit so you can own it and let's move forward. You know what I mean? Like, I love that, and I think that's what honestly, I think that's why the somatics piece fits you so good.
She was meant to come into my life, which is so cool. So
I
cool.
love that.
And now my mother's beautiful. I mean, it's all costume jewelry, but my mother's beautiful. It's all beautiful stuff. Is going to bring joy to her and to someone else. It's going to bring her some money. And someone else is going to wear it in many different pieces. You know, so my mother will live on, and I won't even know it. They won't even know it. And, you know, so.
I love that, Colleen.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that, I love that she thought about using that as deodorant, because I would not have put two and two together. I know the benefits of magnesium. I know what it's done for me. I know what it's done for my son. And that, honestly, that's kind of what I want it for. Like, I want it for bedtime because I know that's just going to relax him too. But no, I love, and the pendants. Like, I love people that make stuff like that. And a lot of people will think that, like, I'm weird, but I'm not weird, because they put so much intention in it, so much, you know, that it's, I don't know, like, I don't have the right words to explain that. I think it's the same thing that goes in with the massages that we were talking about, the bread, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
if everything is made with love, it's beautiful.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we're starting to see come back. People are starting to figure out, wait a second, it doesn't have to be digitalized or techized or tangibilized. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm going to go with it. You know, like, it doesn't have to be that way, you know?